Hello friends, this is Corinne Sutherland. I am doing a video to show you how you can use our new Girl Power stamp set to build different girls. And I'm also going to show you different ways that you can color them, different mediums you can use to color them, because I've had a few requests for that, and also for just showing you how just different ways you can use this stamp set to build the different girls. So I'm just gonna get started. Now my stamp set is very used, so it's kind of dirty. So you can tell it's definitely been well loved. But what I'm gonna do first, I think, is just stamp a bunch of the shoulder image. And the shoulder is just two lines. That's all it is, two rounded lines. And then that is used to create the different, just the different bodies that you can create. So what I'm gonna do first, let's just do a bunch. I'm just gonna stamp a few across here. And then we'll add the heads later. And if you'd like to know what kinds of ink I'm using, what kind of ink I'm using, I am currently using Archival by Ranger. But there are other inks you can use, and it really depends upon what you're using to color with. So in fact, when I color with one of the mediums that I have, I'm gonna need to use a different ink for when I use those. So, and I'll talk about that a little bit too. If you're not familiar with clear stamps, I'll just give you a little bit of information about that. Good quality clear stamps are made from a photopolymer that basically reacts to light, and that's how the image is formed. That's how the image is made. And a good photopolymer will hold your ink really, really well. If you buy some of the cheaper clear stamps that you find maybe in the dollar bins at the dollar store or at Michael's, even some of the more expensive stamps are also not made of the higher quality photopolymer, and they're not going to stamp as nice. They're not going to hold the ink as well, because a lot of those stamps are made with like a silicone type of a substance, and as you know, silicone is what you might use for you know, kitchens and bathrooms and things like that, for to keep water away, keep liquids out of something. And so they a lot of times your inks will bead up on them, on those kinds of stamps, and that is not supposed to happen with a good quality clear stamp. So we do pride ourselves in having really great quality stamps. So if you are newer to the clear stamp world, I would love it if you'd give our stamps a try. I think you'll be very pleased. Now what you do is you just peel it off of the block, or off of the piece of acetate that it comes on, the carrier sheet, and then you just, it's tacky on the back, and you just stick it right on your block. So this is a clear block. I like the ones with the beveled edges. I've gotten these from Close to My Heart many, many years ago, but you can get, they have other ones available on the market, like in Michael's and places like that, where it's just basically literally a block. So there are tons of different kinds of clear blocks on the market that you can find, but you just stick it on there, and then you just ink it up. If you're newer to stamping, and I'm just going to give a couple of these tips for some of the newer stampers, because I know that you are out there, you do not need to mush your stamp into your pad, okay? Pushing really hard and doing a lot of pressure just gets ink in places that you don't want it, and sometimes all around your image where you don't want it, and then when you go to stamp, you have a mess. So my advice to you is to just tap firmly, but not hard, if that makes any sense. And sometimes I even twist a little bit and just tap to get enough coverage. Look at your image, see if you've got a good amount of ink, which usually you can kind of tell, and then you're ready to go. And so then I'm just gonna stamp my girl. And the great thing about clear stamps is you can see where you're stamping. Let me move this over a little bit. So you can see where to line everything up, which is fantastic. Okay, so there is my first girl. And yet, as you can see, her little neck should line up inside of the space in between the shoulders. So we'll do one of the wavy-haired girls. Now, I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing right now, so this is just out of the sake of time. You really should clean your stamps before you put them away. You can buy stamp cleaner from Michaels. Close to My Heart sells a stamp cleaner. Lots of different companies carry their own stamp cleaner. But I do recommend that you get a good stamp cleaner, clear stamp cleaner, and then definitely use it. I'm just not cleaning mine right now because it's going to take some time, and since I'm doing a video, I don't really want to waste any time. So, I'm not going to clean them right now. In fact, I'm not sure if my stamp cleaner is close by or not. If I can find it, I will show you what I use, and then at least you have that information. Okay, so we've got the top knot girl, and then how about we do a short-haired girl? Just another little piece of advice. As you use your stamps, you're going to notice that they're not going to stick as well when you're putting them on a block. When you're putting them back on the sheet, they may not stick as well. And that means that they're dirty. Okay, that just means that you need to clean the back of the stamp as well. You know, our fingers are covered in oils and dirt and things that we don't even realize are there, which is why it's good for us to wash our hands on a regular basis. But that stuff transfers to the back of your stamp. So as you can see, this is not sticking very well on here anymore, and it's really because it's dirty. I need to clean it. So I'm just going to grab this little bottle of water that I have here and a paper towel. This is not typically how I would clean my stamps, but just for the sake of not wanting to lose this little guy, I'm gonna just wipe off the back of him. And now he should be tacky again. It should stick a little bit better. Because that will happen, and I promise you, if you don't keep the backs clean, you will lose stamps. So please, please, please take that word of advice. You don't want to lose your stamps because you didn't have them, because they weren't clean. So, okay, on to the next one. So we've got wavy hair, top knot, short hair, and how about if we do, we'll do this girl with the really long hair. How's that? Okay. So again, I'm just tapping and twisting. And here comes my puppy to say hello. Hi, Lily. Hi, Lily. All right, so tapping and twisting. And then, oh my, she just is being very friendly and wants me to pay attention to her. Now I hope I'm lining these up really well. Unfortunately, because my camera is right in front of my face, I can't put my head over and see as well. I can't line it up quite as well as I would be able to if the camera wasn't there, but I think you get the idea. Okay, so there we've got 4 different girls, and the stamp set comes with 8. So So we'll just do, and I'm just stamping on cardstock. And I will tell you, if you're stamping in your Bible, you know, you're gonna get, you're gonna be able to use obviously the different coloring mediums that you use in your Bible, but it's gonna be a slightly different outcome as far as when you color and everything. On a Bible page compared to like cardstock, or if you use sticker paper, or so just keep that in mind. It's not always going to look exactly the same, maybe depending on what paper you're using. So you might get a different result sometimes with one thing and then, you know, with another. So okay, so then there are a bunch of different little collar options in this stamp set that you can use to create the different styles and outfits for your girls. So, like as you can see, this was one that I did a while ago. There's a V-neck. I did a little V-neck for her there, and this one is actually the headband, but I masked it off so that it could be for her blouse. This one here, I did use the headband as you're supposed to use it, but then I just drew in some lines to kind of make it look like she's wearing like a halter top type thing. This one here, I used the little pearl neck, and then I just drew in 2 little lines to give her sort of a sleeveless top. And then here again is the headband used as kind of a, I don't know, for like a dress or whatever you want, that could be a top. And then I did little lines. I just did like a little corner to make it look like she was wearing, like she had this little sleeves. And then this one was done with, this one was actually, I used one of the neck option, or the collar options, this one right here. And then I paper pieced and gave her a little cardigan. And check out that purple hair. Fun, huh? And then this one, I just drew in her outfit. I just drew a little line and then added like tiny little tank top sleeves. And then the pearls are in the stamp set. So there's so many options, and I also used the headband on her. Lots and lots of different options that you can do, and this is just some. But, I'm sure you could come up with more fun options as you play with the set. So let's do for one of these girls, we'll give her a V-neck. Let's see, maybe this one. And it should just line up. You should just be able to line it right up to make it look like she's got a V-neck top on. Okay, and then we'll put this one away. And then let's see. We also have, there's also a kind of like a mock turtleneck sort of a collar in the set. I don't know if you can see that very well, but we'll use that one as well so you can see what that looks like, because I don't think I did that one on my previous one. So let's just do it on this girl. And I can't line up super well here because of the fact that my like I said, I can't see very well. So there's a little bit of a like a mock turtleneck. Okay, and then we have, let's see, we'll do some pearls on one of them. And I've seen some really fun things done with the pearls too. Some of the ladies have used it as like a little barrette in her hair. I've seen some ladies use these even as earrings. So you can really have fun with what's in this set. It's gonna make you feel like a kid again. Okay, and then what do I want to do? Maybe we'll do this little. This is just kind of like a little. I don't know how to explain what it is, but it's just like a double lined collar. Just stamp that there. So now we've got. They're starting to come together a little bit better. This girl, she still needs a neck, or not a neck, like a top. So I'm gonna take a pin, and I think with the pearls, I'm just gonna do like a scoop neck. So that's just with a journaling pen. I mean, you could do that. You know, you could do all kinds of different lines of your own, you know, to create that. In fact, maybe for this girl, we'll make it like a sleeveless shirt. So basically you just give her some space for arms and just come down with 2 different lines, and now she's wearing kind of like a sleeveless top. And you could do something like that with this girl as well, if you wanted for the V-neck to be, you know, to have sleeves or something. So, okay, so that's that. Now we also have some facial features in this stamp set. So we've got, let's see, we've got the mouth. There's a cute little set of lips in here that we can maybe stamp on one of these girls so you can see. Because I know the faceless girls are really popular, but some people don't care for that, so it's okay. We tried to help you there too. Now with the facial features, you have to keep some things in mind when you're stamping the facial features. Now I probably stamped that a little bit low for this girl because, again, I can't really put my head over that and see it very well, but when you think about a face and where your facial features line up on a face, you need to keep some things in mind, okay? And this is just something that you learn maybe in art class or something like that. But when you draw a face, the eyes are actually right in the center of the head, okay? So you have to kind of envision that there is underneath the hair obviously would be the head, okay? So the eyes are actually going to be right in the center of the shape, of the head shape. Not up really high, not down lower, but I mean, if you're trying to make it look a little bit more accurate, you'd put the eyes right in the center, and then just maybe even think about like how much space, maybe look in the mirror if you just want to kind of get an idea of positioning, how far down should the nose be, and how close are the lips typically to a nose. So, like for instance, for these girls, the mouth and the nose are fairly close because usually there's not a whole lot of space between your mouth and your nose. And obviously you can move the nose up and down if you want her to have a longer nose or something like that. This one maybe has a little bit shorter of face than this one, so she might have a longer nose. So anyway, just some little things to kind of keep in mind when you're stamping a face, or drawing a face for that matter. All right, we've also got a pair of glasses. So those are fun, and I don't think I stamped the glasses on my samples. So we'll do some glasses on someone. Who's gonna get the glasses? Maybe this girl? All right, I'm gonna have to pull this down so I can actually see better. And maybe I'll stand. Okay, so like I said, eyes go in the center. So we're just gonna stamp those right in the center of her face, okay? And then maybe we'll do think we'll leave one of the girls without, maybe without a face, or without facial features, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so then we've got some closed eyes. That's another image. So maybe we'll do the closed eyes on, let's see here, this girl here. And again, in about the center of her face. Okay, so there we go. So now you can kind of see how it all comes together. And then the nose is just this tiny little squiggle. Okay, it's really small, and if you're not careful, remember how I said about cleaning those stamps, if you're not careful, you could lose it. So just make sure you keep it clean. All right, so we're gonna put her nose right about here. Just a little squiggle, and then once you see it stamped, you can kind of get the idea of what it is. And then we'll give her the mouth too. We'll just give this girl the whole shebang. Give her some lips. And like I said, your nose and mouth are not super far away from each other, so you would just want to, whoops, just want to stamp them fairly close. And then you want to keep in mind your chin too, a chin, you know, so if you're trying to get a good spacing for the face, those are just some things to keep in mind for that. Okay, so now we've got, I think all the stamping is done for these four. We'll just leave it as it is. And then I'm going to show you a couple different ways that you can, a couple different things you can use to color the girls. I know probably most of you have colored pencils and maybe some watercolors. So I will show you some, I will show you both of those things. Excuse me while I sip coffee. And then I'm also going to show you, I do have my Copic markers. Now I will say, if you don't own Copic markers, don't rush out and buy them. They're very pricey. It's definitely an investment if it's something that you want, you know, to have and use. You know, you have to be pretty serious about it, I guess, if you want to use them, because they are a little expensive. But as a card maker and coloring images on cardstock and things, Copic markers are kind of my go-to usually for that kind of purpose. But for Bible journaling, I don't really use my Copic markers much at all. So if you're a Bible journaler, you might find that they're not, you know, you can get away without them. So, and I will tell you too, for these samples, these were all watercolored. So you can get a decent result with watercolors. Something to keep in mind as well as far as paper though, when you're talking about watercolors and cardstock, watercolors are not always, how do I want to say this? They don't always react as well on certain cardstocks. Sometimes your cardstock will start to pill and kind of disintegrate in a sense. And so that did actually happen to me on this. So certain cardstocks, you know, you might have to play around with what you have. You might not like quite how the watercoloring works. So you just sort of have to see what works for you. Maybe use less water or wait for it to dry between color applications. Okay, so first up I'm going to use my Prismacolor pencils. I have the set of 48 and I'm going to use these for, well, mine are all kind of a mess because I've actually had kids over that I've allowed to use them, believe it or not. And so they're all kind of, they're not exactly in order, but just so you can see all the different colors. And for one of the faces, I think I'll just start with this girl. I'm going to use the light peach. And the cool thing about these girls is you can make them any ethnicity that you'd like. So you can have fun with that. And you know, different skin tones. And I've done that with the watercolors already. And you can do that also with the Copics. I'm sorry about the table is shaking a little bit. Okay, so she's quite pale with just the light peach, but you can come in with other colors. Like if I grab just peach and come in with a little bit of shading, I can make her a little less pale. Maybe she's been in the sun a little bit. Now, I will say my favorite coloring medium is not colored pencils. These are not, I don't feel like I quite have, I'm just going to blend this out a little bit. I don't quite feel like the colored pencils, for me, I have as much, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know, freedom. I don't think freedom's the right word. But anyway, I feel like I don't have as much, like if I make a mistake, I can't, it's not as easy for me to fix it with the colored pencils. And maybe somebody else who's better with colored pencils would argue that, because perhaps they've figured out a different way, you know, a way to work with the colored pencils and where they're more forgiving. Which is awesome. I'd love to hear that. I'd love to hear about that. But because it's a colored pencil and you're working with like a waxy substance, it's just, for me, I feel like it's not quite as forgiving. So I did add a little bit, I've added some rosy cheeks for her. And then now, however, okay, so for the face, I don't feel like colored pencils are quite as forgiving. However, for the hair, that's a different story. Because for the hair, I feel like we can get some fun lines because, you know, our hair is not like all a solid color. It's got different highlights and things naturally and usually. And so, and depending on the way the sun is hitting it or the light is hitting it, you might see, you know, shine and shimmer. So the colored pencils are kind of fun when it comes to the hair. So I'm just going to start with this lighter brown color. Burnt ochre. I think that's what it says. I don't know if that's right, if I'm saying that right, but okay, so we'll just do that. And then I'm going to come in with a different brown, light umber. Sort of add color where there wasn't any. And obviously, you know, when you're thinking of colors and shadows and all that kind of stuff, underneath, like in the back of her neck, it would be darker most likely. So I do tend to make that a little bit darker. And then I like to come in with an even darker color. See which browns I have here. All right, this is called dark umber, so we'll just come in with some dark color. And I'm just trying to kind of go along like the wave. But you can see it sort of comes together once you add the different layers of color on there. And you can just keep adding color on top of color, and, you know, until you get it the way you want it. I'm just gonna kind of leave it, I think, there just for the sake of time. But now we've got our brunette, wavy-haired girl. And as far as like her top, okay, there are some little images in this set that you can use to decorate the clothing. But you could also use pattern paper if you like to do paper piecing. You can do little, you know, you could do stripes with a pen or dots or, you know, things like that with a pen if you'd like. You know, you can pretty much just use your imagination to come up with different things for that. Like there's this little flower in here. It's kind of like a little rosette. And then there's also this little flower. It's like a little, sort of a little daisy type flower that you can use to maybe give her blouse a pattern. So maybe we'll do that just for the sake of having something on it. And then if you're trying to, obviously you don't want to stamp on her arm, so I'm just going to put something there to cover it to make it look like, you know, a pattern on the shirt. Okay, so there we've just got a few little flowers on her shirt. And now we can come in and color those. My pencils could really use a good sharpening, so these little tiny areas are going to be a little harder for me to get in. And maybe we'll just make her shirt kind of an orangey color. And I'm sorry for the weird sound, my dog is drinking water. Okay, so there's kind of a fun little top that she's wearing. You can add shadows and things like that. So she kind of looks like she's a summer girl and she's ready for summertime. Okay, so there is some colored pencils. That's what it looks like with the colored pencils. All right, so next up I'm gonna show you, let me just move my stuff out of the way here. Okay, now I'm gonna show you some watercolors. Give me a sip of coffee. Oh, my son is singing. Maybe you can hear him. All right, I'm gonna use my water brush, and actually I think it could probably use some more water in it. So give me just a moment and I'm gonna run to the sink and fill this. Okay. My allergies are also acting up on me, so hopefully I don't sneeze in the middle of this video. Okay, so my water brush, I'm just using a little water brush. This is one of the ones where you fill the barrel with water, and then you can push on the barrel, and then water comes out through the brush. So I cannot remember where I got this, but you can find brushes like this at Hobby Lobby and Michael's and online. This is the watercolor palette that I'm using. It's kind of messy. I'm a messy colorer. Let me show you the bottom part. It's by Kuretake. These are a little on the pricier side, but they're great. The colors are just fantastic. I love them. But what I do is to get a flesh tone, I mix colors. So let me just see here. So I will mix like a little bit of the light color, like the white color, with I'm gonna do something a little bit weird here too. I'm gonna pour a little bit of tiny drop of water on my block just so that I have a place to access a little bit of water. Okay, so I use the white, and then I'll pick up like another color, like maybe a little bit of the brown, and then I mix it. I don't know if you can see this. I kind of mix it on my block. This is just, now if you have like a little, if you have a little watercolor palette, you could, like painters, if you have one of these things, you could do it in that. But sometimes I don't have that nearby, so I'll just use the block because it works. Okay, so I'm just mixing this to get kind of a fleshy tone, and then she's gonna have a little bit more of an olivey skin. And that all is going to depend upon what you, I mean, I could have tested this out on my, on the paper before I started going on the actual image. But again, for the sake of time, I'm just kind of winging it at this point, because this video is already going a little bit long. Okay, now for now, okay, let me just, so there is her her first layer for her skin tone. Now if you feel like you know, maybe it's a little too dark, a little darker than what you wanted it, you can come in with that, like I'm coming in with a little bit of white kind of over top of it, just to sort of blend it out a little bit so it's not quite so blotchy looking, I guess you could say. And then I would recommend that you sort of let it dry for a second, because like as you can see, I'm adding more, the more wetness I add to it, it's starting to kind of like warp a little bit. You probably can't see it, but I can see it from this angle. The water is, you know, making the paper kind of buckle. So you can sort of let that dry, or if you're impatient, you can grab your heat tool and just kind of heat it, or dry it with the heat tool. Okay, so that feels better. Then if you wanted to add a little bit of rosy cheeks, I do sort of have like a pink mixture that I did here already, but I'm gonna come over here with a little bit of a pink. There's a really strange bird outside my window making noise. Okay, so, and again, you can you know, play around with this. Maybe you don't quite like the colors. I will say though that the watercolor, when you watercolor, it's always best to go lighter first and then add more color as you, because if you start too dark, it tends to be harder to fix. All right, I'm gonna give her some red lips. And now you can see it's coming together. It's coming together fairly nicely. Okay, so with the watercolors, let's see. I think I'll do, maybe I'll do a darker, maybe make her hair a little darker. Now what you can even do is start with like a base color and just sort of color the whole thing. And that's easy to do with watercolors. Because they just go down really easily. And then if you want to add maybe some even darker lines, you can add some darker lines. And with the hair up in like a top knot, it is kind of hard to figure out how the lines would go with her hair. So I tend to not make it too detailed just because it's just a little harder to figure out, because her hair is kind of going every which way. But at least you can kind of get an idea. There's a little bit of highlight, a little bit of dark shadowing. All right. Okay, so now we'll just leave that. And then for her top, I think I might do, let's see, maybe we'll do purple. And with the watercolors, you have a little bit of time before they totally dry. So you can kind of work with them a little bit, but not a ton of time. So you do have to be, if you want to blend them, you have to kind of be quick about it. So as you see there, I did the darker sides, and then I tried to pull the color in from the edges. And I'm just gonna kind of take a little bit of white and try to see if I can blend that out a little bit better. Okay, so there is she kind of looks like a classy girl. But you can see there's quite a difference between colored pencils and watercolors. Now, if you have watercolor pencils, or if you use the Gamsol technique with a blending stump with your colored pencils, you can blend this out a little bit better. Another thing too with the colored pencils is sometimes if you just go in with your white, depending on the colors that you're using, you could blend out some of those strokes and you won't have quite the same, you won't have like the strokes that you can kind of see. So, so that's just another thing that you can, you can read up on. There are videos and stuff about about colored pencils that you could check out if you're interested. But anyway, okay, so that's with the watercolors. And then the last thing I'm going to show you as far as the colors, and actually that might be the end of this video, is I'm going to use my Copic markers. Now, I have a pretty large collection of Copic markers, I will admit to that. So, like I said, this, this part you might not even really care about because you might not want to go out and invest in something like this, but just so that you can see the difference and kind of get an idea of what's out there, I'm gonna just show you what the Copics are like. All right, so let's do, actually, I think I might do a darker skin tone for this girl, just because we've already done a couple lighter ones. So let's see how this girl turns out if we can give her a darker skin tone. Okay, so now Copic markers are alcohol based, so they dry pretty quickly, and I'm just gonna kind of go around the outside of her face with a darker color, and then I'm gonna go in and blend it with a lighter color. Let me just see. Sometimes you have to play around with the colors that you want to use. But as it starts to come together, you're going to see what I'm saying when, as far as the blending, the way they blend so nicely together. Okay. And then the cool thing too about Copics is you can sometimes go over, usually you can go over them like if I wanted to do the pink cheeks, and then what I'll do is I'll take a lighter color again and sort of blend that, like a lighter skin tone color, and just sort of blend the pink. Okay, so now we've got a darker skin tone, and let's see, what should we do for her lips? Maybe we'll do like that and then add kind of a darker color over top of that. You tend to be able to do a little bit more with detail with the Copic markers, but I will tell you they do bleed through. So, okay, and I'm just gonna show you this. This is the back of her face, okay? Because Copic markers, they do seep through your paper. So if you're using them in your Bible, you're gonna wanna test it because it very well may bleed through if you don't prep your pages. Like I said, I don't really use my Copic markers much at all in my Bible. But I do love them for card making. I just feel like I can get a lot more colors that are, I don't know, more controlled. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. And the cool thing about these tips is you can put, the more pressure you put, the wider the line. So if you are heavy-handed, you're gonna have thicker lines. And I'm just going in with like different browns, kind of like I did with the colored pencils. Just adding some depth to her hair with the different colors, the different shades of brown. Okay, so I think I'll just leave that. And there are other ways that you can color with Copics. I'm not doing, I mean, there are lots of cool ways that you can color a girl's hair and her face, but especially hair. I haven't colored with my Copics in so long, you know, as far as regularly, so I've kind of lost my touch with some of that stuff because I've been coloring with other things, other mediums. But there are tons of Copic marker videos out there that you can watch and learn some really cool ways to color with them. So this is not a Copic marker tutorial. This is just to show you how the different mediums look and how they kind of work when you're coloring a face. So anyway, okay, so then I think what I'll do for her top, maybe I'll do something fun, maybe do some stripes. See how this works out. And then we just take a darker color and just do some, oh, my dog is telling me she probably wants me to feed her. And you can have fun with this as far as, you know, the patterns and the things that you're doing to create, you know, fun fashions. All right, so we'll do that, and then maybe come in with another, oops. Sort of blend this a little bit. And then you can even come in with another little bit of like a skinny line. It's kind of fun just to play around and come up with different patterns and what have you. So there is just sort of a fun striped kind of a shirt for her. But that is, I'm gonna wrap it up with that. I know I didn't color this girl yet, but this video has gone pretty long. So I'm gonna leave you with that. If you are interested in grabbing a set of Girl Power stamps, they are gonna be back in stock either later today or tomorrow. You can find them at sweetandsassstamps.com, and I'll just write this down, sweetandsassstamps.com. If you want to check us out, you can find these stamps and lots of other awesome stamps for card making and Bible journaling. If you have any questions at all, please leave me a comment. You can check us out on Facebook. You can check us out on Instagram. Lots of ways to find us. So this is Corinne, and I will catch you next time.